Number.
He's measuring something. Okay, so we're on page 576. We're talking about population, sample, variable. Now, quantitative means it deals with a number. Qualitative meant it dealt with a category. So it's quantitative. These words are long. Now, remember in the directions it said if it's quantitative, then we also have to decide whether it's discrete or continuous. So to be discrete means you can actually just count it. To be continuous, it says it had to be measured. So if he's measuring the pieces of chalk, this one's definitely going to be continuous. It has to be measured. Okay? So now if I had different colors of chalk and I was trying to figure out the color of chalk, that would be qualitative. So I would just put it, these were green, these were yellow, these were red, these were blue. And I would count how many were. It was be categories. I was dividing it in groups. This, we're actually finding the actual measurement of the chalk. Okay, so for this, okay, we've already talked about several of your definitions. Okay. So if I say the branch of statistics that is used to summarize the main features of a collection of data, is that descriptive or inferential?
Descriptive.
Very good. Descriptive. Descriptive. The summary. Good. All right. What is the entire group of interest called? The entire group is the
population.
That's what we found on part A. The population, the total number is your population. The part that I look at is my what?
Sample.
Sample. Okay. Now, listen to these situations and tell me whether you think it would be quantitative. Quantitative, remember, deals with a quantity, a number, or qualitative, meaning it divides it into categories. So listen to this and tell me which one you think it is. An advertising company conducted a survey about how many sodas a teenager drinks per week.
Continuous.
Okay, it's not continuous. Right now, I'm just worried about whether it's quantitative or qualitative.
Oh, qualitative.
Does it deal with a number?
Oh, no.
Quantitative. I know it's hard.
Quantitative.
Quantitative, just the N means number. It's got the N, it means the number. Okay, so quantitative, it deals with the number. They're counting how many sodas they do in a week. So since they're counting how many, would that be discrete quantitative or continuous quantitative? Which one counts?
Continuous. Discrete.
Okay. Listen to this one and tell me whether it's quantitative or qualitative. Seth collected information at a factory about what color cars employees drove to work.
Qualitative.
Qualitative, because he's looking at what color. If it's talking about what color or what kind of something, that means they're dividing them into categories. What color hair people have, what color shoes they're wearing, what color car they drive to work. So if it's talking about something like that, okay, then it's qualitative. You can divide them into categories. If it's talking about whether they come in a truck, a motorcycle, a car. Okay, those are different categories. You can divide them up. If I'm talking about an actual number, how many of something or how long something was, then those are quantitative. Okay? So it sounds like you kind of got those definitions down pretty good, I think. That's okay. Let me see. I want to make sure I covered all those before we move to the next ones. Okay, so we're good with that part. Now, the next thing that we had was still in section 12.1, and that dealt with our ways to actually look at the data, descriptive statistics, talking about the mean, the median, and the mode. Now, when we're talking about the mean, median, and mode, I call those the 3 M's that are our measures of center. Okay? Remember, mean is the average. You add up the items and divide by how many items there are. Median is the middle number. For the middle number, you have to have them in order first, from least to greatest, and then you can find the one that's in the middle. You count in from each end to the middle. And then the last one is your mode. It's the number or numbers that occurs most often. So if just one number shows up twice and everything else is just there one time, it's called unimodal. It has one mode. If you have two numbers that are both in there twice and everything else is there once, it's bimodal. Or if each number just appears one time, then it has no mode. So those are different things that we have that were also in section 12.1. Now there's another measurement that we talked about with those, and that was called the range. The range is not a measure of center. Measure of center kind of tells you a summary of about where all the data kind of clusters together, okay? Your range is a measure of variance. It tells how far the data is spread out. And you find it by taking the high minus the low. So what we're gonna look at is we are going to go to number 7 on page 558 that we didn't finish, I believe on Tuesday is when we were doing that. Okay, so page 558, number 7, because it dealt with your mean, median, mode, and range. Okay. It doesn't have them in that order, but that's what it's asking for. Okay, so it's on the top of page 558, number 7. Our directions tell us, find the A, the mode, that's the one that occurs the most. B, the median, your middle number. C, your mean, which is your average. D, the range, the high minus low. Also state whether the mode was unimodal, bimodal, or no mode. Round answers to 3 decimal places when necessary. So this is when everybody needs to make sure they got their calculator ready. Okay, and we're doing number 7 because it's the one we didn't finish the other day when we were working on this. It says, Evan looked in the school's records and found that the following number of people graduated each year over the past 10 years. Apparently, it's a pretty big school. Okay, they had 205 people, 168 people, 245, 206, 297, 205, 310, 178, 231, and 263. Okay, so these are the different numbers of graduates that they had. So if I want to find the mode, that's what shows up the most. So we look through here, are any of those numbers duplicated? On number 7, are any of the numbers duplicated?
Yes, Miss. It's 205.
205. So if there's only one number that's duplicated, we say it is
It's a
Unimodal.
if it had 2 numbers, like 13 and 15, I'm just saying 2 numbers, then you would say it was bimodal. Okay, but it just had 1 number, so it was unimodal. Okay, part B is the median. Now, to be able to find the median, we have to do something first. We need to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. So my smallest number of graduates, it looks like, was the 168. 168 and then 178. Those are the only ones in the hundreds. And then the 200s, we had the 205, 205, 206. What's next? 231. Then what? 245. 263, 297. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I left one out. Oh, 310. I It had to be another one because it said for 10 years. Okay. So all I've done is I took my numbers and I put them in order from least to greatest. Because if I'm trying to find the median, I have to have them in order from least to greatest. Now, when you look at this, there are 10. So do I have one single number that's in the middle of 10 numbers?
No.
No.
Because there's an even number. So if I could take the first 5 and the last 5, there's nothing left to be in the middle, okay? So when there's an even number of data, you have to find what that is. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the middle number would be here between my 5th and 6th number in my list. So the way to find out what number that would be is we average them together. So we add those two numbers, 206 and 231, and we divide it by 2, and that's going to be our median, our middle number.
Miss, I got 321.5.
You got what?
321.5.
300, honey, when it's supposed to be between
I
200
don't know.
and 231.
I don't know. I put it in the calculator.
Well, you know what you probably did is when you're adding those, you have to hit equal before you can divide by 2. Because otherwise your calculator is taking 231 divided by 2 and then adding that answer to 206. Because order of operations say multiplication and division gets done before addition and subtraction. So you have to hit equal after you add the two things together and then divide that by 2 and you get a decimal of 218.5. Right? But that should have been like a little warning for you that it wasn't right because it was supposed to be between 206 and 231. Okay? That's why I always usually have you all check me with calculator stuff because is it easy to put stuff in wrong? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, part C, I forgot what part C was. Was that our mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, remember for the mean, you have to add everything together and then divide by how many there are. Well, we know it was for the past 10 years, but you have to add all those numbers together. So you type them in on your little calculator. And I want y'all to check and make sure I added that right before we divide it by 10.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, so now if I divide that by 10, that's going to be 230.8. Okay, so that's our mean. And then our last one is our range. Our range, remember, is the highest number. So the highest number of graduates the schools had was 310. And the lowest number was 168. So you take 310 minus 168.
142.
142. Okay, so remember what I was talking about with these. Your measures of center, your 3 M1s, your mean, median, and mode, if you'll notice, they're all in the 200s. Okay, they're all in the lower 200s because that kind of gives you a summary of where most of the data was. If you look at the numbers, they're kind of all closer to that lower. You have these few years that were like way out there, but the majority of them were around the lower 200s. Now, your range shouldn't match up with them because it's a measure of variance. It's just showing how far the data is spread. So it's not going to look like the other three. The other three should be similar, but this one usually is not. Okay? So that's mean, median, mode, and range. So which one of these was found by putting the numbers in order from least to greatest and finding the middle?
Median.
Median. What is found by taking the highest value minus the lowest value?
Range.
Range.
Oh, range.
What do you do by adding them all up and dividing by the number of items?
Mean.
Mean.
What is the one that means the number shows up the most?
Mode.
Mode.
What if it has two modes?
You no, I don't know.
If it has two modes, it's called,
Bimodal.
Bimodal.
if it has one, it's unimodal. If every number is just there one time, it has no mode. Okay? So that covers that stuff. So we're good with those? Most of you thought that part was pretty easy because you all have done that before. You should have had it in middle school, that part. All right. So that was finishing question number 7 that we didn't do on Tuesday. Okay. Now, yesterday we were working on section 12.2. And on section 12.2, for number 5, I believe it was, I'd asked you to work on the table. Does that sound familiar? Did I ask you to do your table for number 5?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Okay, so did you do your table for number 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I only heard one yeah, people, so.
Yes, Miss, I did mine.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, remember the first thing that we have to find is this. What does this symbol mean?
Mean.
It means the mean. I was trying to see if y'all paid attention. This is the mean, okay? So, now, I will warn you, on the quiz, I never could find the little thing that would let me type it in like that. So I just have X with the little line on top. That's how I wrote it out. I have X with the line on top. Because I couldn't figure out the little symbol, and it was 9 o'clock last night, and I said, that's good. Don't know what I mean. So when it says X with the line on top, that's the symbol it's talking about for your mean, okay? So we just talked about how to find the mean. We add them up and divide by how many there were. So when you add these up and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because there's 6 numbers, what did you get?
Hold on, let me flip to that page. My notebook. Well,
Yes, because when you add these up, you get 72 divided by 6, so my mean is 12. So remember, for our table, when you're doing your table, you take X minus that mean. So I take 12 minus 12. Well, 12 minus 12 is just
0.
0. 15 minus 12 is 3. 15 minus 12 is 3. 7 minus 12, be careful, you're going to get a negative number, negative 5. 9 minus 12, negative 3. And 14 minus 12 is 2. Okay? Remember, I gave you the one that had smaller numbers to work with for you to try on your own. So that's why I did that, so you'd be able to do those. Now, when we go to do this column, you just take the numbers that are here and you square them. So 0 squared is 0, 3 squared is 9, 3 squared is 9, negative 5 squared, a negative times negative makes it positive. So it's 25, negative 3 squared, 9, and 2 squared is 4. So those are your numbers for that one. Now, I remember these problems yesterday were long, okay? First step was getting our table, which we just did that, okay? We had to find our mean so we could do our table. After we've done that, then we find MD. What does MD stand for?
Medical department.
No.
Median.
Mean, whoops, I can't
Mean
remember.
deviation.
Mean deviation. Okay, it's not a medical doctor, it's mean deviation. Okay, so the formula for mean deviation that we had remember, is the sum of one of these columns. Which column?
The second one.
The second column. It's the sum of these numbers divided by n, how many numbers there are. Now, when we added these up for your mean deviation, do you pay attention to the negatives?
No.
No.
No, because the bar, it has absolute value bars on it. So for this one, we're going to add these numbers up, this column right here, and we're going to divide it by 6. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16. Is that right? Now, remember in the directions, it told us to have how many decimal places?
3.
3. So I'll have 2 point, and then it's 6 repeating. So I'll have 6, 6, and then the last one I'll round up to 7. Okay? So that's my mean deviation. What does the S squared stand for? Start with a V. It's called the variance. Okay? It's called the variance. Now for it, instead of using this column, we use this column. Okay? We use this column. There's another difference though. What's the other difference? Does anybody remember? Not the bottom. You have to subtract 1 from your n value on the bottom. For the variance, you use the squared column of your table, and then you have to subtract 1 from the n on the bottom. Now, remember on all these, you start off by doing the sum. It's like you're finding the average of these is your mean deviation, okay? Your average of these is your variance. So that's what we're doing right now. So we're gonna take all these numbers and add them together. I got 56, y'all agree with me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then 6 minus 1 is 5. So I'm taking 56 divided by 5. I'll get a decimal. It actually turns out
11.2.
a nice little decimal, so I don't even have to worry about having to round that one off. Okay, so it's just 11.2. Okay, now mean deviation is the MD. Variance is the S squared. What is the S by itself?
Standard deviation.
Standard deviation. Okay, it's our standard deviation. So it's probably the easiest because after you have this, you just do something to the variance. What do you do to the variance?
Square root?
Square root.
Square.
S squared.
No.
So I take the square root to the itself. I'm going to take the square root of 11.2. So square root of 11.2. Ooh. We want this one as a decimal. We're going to have to round. What's it round to?
A 7?
Yep, because you have a 6 followed by another 6, so it
Oh,
happens.
yeah.
Okay. So, everybody got that? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, now, I'm going to go through these. I want to make sure. So, we talked about the difference between quantitative and qualitative. Mean, median, mode, and range. Those were easy to find. Okay, so which symbol, let's see. No, wait a minute. What is the symbol for variance? What's the variable for variance?
S squared.
S squared. So standard deviation is just
S.
S. What is this that I'm dividing by in mean deviation? Where did I get the 6? What does that stand for?
N.
That's your N. That's the number of items. Okay. What do we divide by when we're doing variance, though?
N minus 1.
Minus
1.
1. Okay. Which one of these is the square root of the variance?
Standard deviation.
Standard deviation. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that's pretty well. Where is it? So if it gives you the variance, can you find standard deviation?
Yeah.
Yes.
If it gives you the variance, all you got to do is take the
Square root.
root.
The square root.
Deviation. Okay, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. We mentioned it yesterday, but some of you may not have paid much attention to it. Is I said it real quick, and it's on page 561. Okay. All right. We have on here, if the population variance calculation is used with samples, bias occurs. Bias is a consistent statistical error that on average gives a result that is either too high or too low. Okay, so if it talks about bias, it's something that is what?
Too high or too low.
Too high or too low. Okay, that's why we divide by n minus 1 on our variance instead of just n, because that helps eliminate the bias. Okay, something else that we didn't talk about much, but you've got the table here in your book, right here. Population notation. Okay, we said this is our mean for our sample. This is our sample, because remember, they only looked at like 6 days or whatever. So this is our mean for our sample. The mean for the entire thing, they use a different letter. Does everybody see that letter? Okay. I'm going to put them right here. Population mean is the lowercase Greek letter mu. It kind of looks like a weird lowercase u, but it's mu. Okay. It's got the little extra line down on the front of it. That's the lowercase letter mu. Okay. That's your population mean. Now this S was our standard deviation. If I want to do the population standard deviation, they have a different symbol for that there on that table too. And that's the lowercase sigma. Okay, that's the lowercase Greek letter sigma, which kind of looks like an O with extra little hoof out to the side. Okay, so when it's talking about population mean for our sample is this one. Population mean is this one. When it's talking about standard deviation, it's this one for our sample. Population standard deviation is this one. But you have your book. Can you use your book when you're doing quizzes?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
You can. I'm telling you you can. All right. So now, what I want to do is you notice I have a table up here. Okay. This table actually goes with questions on the quiz. Okay. I think it's quiz 40. Okay. This goes with questions on the quiz. So we're going to work on getting the table part set up for you. Okay. For quiz 40. Okay, we're going to work on getting the table set up for you, and then that way you don't have to do the whole thing on your own. Okay? We good? Because if we get that set up right, then you should be able to find what it asks you to find. So what we're going to do is the very first step when we have our table, these are the different data values, is we have to find our mean, our average of those. So we have to add these numbers together. So I'm adding 170 plus 180, whoops, 183 plus 188 plus 192 plus 205 plus 220 plus 249. I get 1407. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, my n is equal to 7. So I'm going to take this, divided by 7, and I get 201. So it says my mean or my average is 201. Okay? Now, remember how to find this column. We take each individual number and we subtract 201 from it. So that's what I'm doing now. I take 170, whoops, helps if I hit the button. 170 minus 201, get negative 31. 183 minus 201. I can't believe I even typed that one in the calculator. I wasn't even paying attention. Good Lord. All right. Okay, so we get those numbers. Now, for this column, we square all those. So we're going to get big numbers in this column. Whoops. Okay. Now, this way you have your table. So if it asks you to find the mean deviation, you know you use this column for the mean deviation, right? This is the one that you use for the MD. This one is the one you use for S squared, which is called your what?
Your
Variance.
Your variance.
variant.
Okay. So, but this way you have your table. So if it asks you to find the mean deviation, you know you use this one. If it asks you to find the variance, you use this one. If it asks for the standard deviation, you have to find the variance first and then take the
Square root.
root of it. Okay. But I wanted to go ahead and at least kind of make sure everybody had the table set up right, because if you have the table set up right, then you should be able to get the right numbers for when it asks you for one of those. Okay? But that covers everything that you have on there for the quizzes. Yay?
Alrighty.
All right. Now, they are in ProProfs. Okay? This I said was quiz 4. There are 2 of them. This one is just over 12.1. This one's over 12.1 and 12.2. Okay? So this one is like what we did here on example 1, where we're talking about the population, where I read the situation and you had to tell me whether it was quantitative, dealing with a number, or qualitative, dealing with a categories. So it had that. And then we had, trying to make sure you can still see everything. Okay, so that's what this one's about. Your population, your sample, your mean, median, mode, and range. So it's like number 1 and number 7 that we did on the board today. Okay, so this is like number 1 and number 7. Okay, quiz 40 has more of like what we did on number 5 and what we just talked about here. Okay, especially with all the symbols, what the symbols mean. Okay, but you shouldn't have any trouble with what the symbols mean if you're looking in your book, because it tells you what the symbols mean in your book. Yes, I put them up here on the board, but you also had them in your book. It's only 2 sections to look in, so it's not a whole lot of pages. It's not like we're doing something over a whole big, large chapter. Okay, so please, please, please do better on these than some of you all did on the last test. Okay, now we're gonna still talk about, we'll go back and talk about your all's last test and stuff tomorrow, as well as possible maybe extra credit opportunities, etc. Some of you may need that for moving on, because we only have just a couple weeks left, and then we have big exam coming. So we'll try to kind of get through that stuff tomorrow, so we can maybe have some of that being worked on over the weekend as far as like extra credit or something, or on Monday when we don't have Zoom, you could possibly work on some extra credit, that kind of thing, if you need it. So that's my goal. So everybody think they're ready for their quizzes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Aurelie just always shakes her head no. I don't think it matters what I say. So I was like, no, miss. Right? See, she still shakes her head no. She knows I'm right. That's exactly what you do. You're always like, no, miss. All right. So make sure you have everything you need. Don't forget to log in and take the quizzes. I think I have them on there till like 9 o'clock tonight, because I know some of you have to go to Spanish. Others of you, you could go ahead and go take your quizzes now while you remember them. That would be good. So go get them done. Make sure they're done by 9 o'clock, and I will see everybody tomorrow at 1.
Bye.
Bye.